And now it's time for our second panel of the day, Computing for AI, a fireside chat with the Virtual World Society. And to tell us a little more, I'd like to introduce Dr. Angelina Dayton, Executive Director from the Virtual World Society.
Thank you, Christina. Hi, thank you for joining us. Today, we are encouraging everybody to become a member of the Virtual World Society. If you become a member, you get one of these pins, and when you see other people with one of these pins, you'll know that they're trying to make the world a better place. I'd like to introduce Linda Ricci, Head of Strategic Initiatives for the Virtual World Society. Does Tom need an introduction? He doesn't. Dr. Tom Furness, grandfather of virtual reality, head of our board. And we let Alvin hang out with us sometimes too because we think he's cool, head of HTC China, and also a board member of the Virtual World Society. When you join today, I will be looking at the names that come on my phone, and if you are very special and nice to me, you get a swag bag with a t-shirt also. Is that enough of a pitch for our organization? And then you'll be able to continue to hear Tom speak at his monthly fireside chats, our podcasts, and other ways of sharing good in the world. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Linda Ricci. Enjoy.
Thank you. It is great to be here. Check my mic. I am here with Alvin and Tom, as Angelina did that lovely introduction. And I thought we would actually kick it off, because I don't know if everybody knows this, but these guys go a long way back. How did you guys meet each other?
Well, he was my student.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Professor Furness, come on.
But I don't know how he turned out, actually. I tried to do my best.
Well,
but,
Was he a good student?
Oh, well.
You didn't have much to work with, I know.
Well, being the president of HTC Vive in China, probably not too bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like to brag about him, but I don't tell him that. But I do.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah.
Tom, you founded the Virtual World Society because you were on the pioneering side of developing all this technology, and let's be honest, many of us would probably not be here if it hadn't been for the work you did. I know, you make him blush. So you did that. You started the Virtual World Society because you wanted to make sure that we didn't forget the humanity side of technology. And can you tell the audience just a little bit about the Virtual World and what you want to achieve with it?
Well, actually, the first Virtual World Society started in '93. And it was really a defense mechanism, because I was really concerned. Lawnmower Man was coming out.
It's one of my favorite movies.
And actually, I was asked to be, by the director, to be a technical advisor on the movie, and he sent me the script, and I read the script, and I said, oh, no. This is dystopian.
Yeah.
You know, this is my baby. This is so much wonder, and beautiful things can come out of it. And this is going to be the first exposure to the general public about this whole VR thing. And I said, we have to do something more. You know, good offense is the best defense. And so I decided to form this Virtual World Society. We had about 100 members. We had some money, but it turned out, and most of them these were kids. These members, but it was clear that we're way ahead of our time, because it costs $500 to $1,000 to $1 million to get a silicon graphics machine in your lab so you could actually run this stuff.
We started with silicon graphics machines, actually.
So anyhow, we kept revisiting it. About every 3 or 4 years, when should we restart this thing?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Palmer Luckey comes along, and with the Quest and the Oculus, and so that's when we decided, you know, it's clear that we're going to have some technology out there that can be affordable, and that now's the time for us to go back and do it with the same idea that we wanted to be the voice of reason, the voice of the conscience, so to speak, the heartbeat of how this industry grows, and especially its applications. We wanted to certainly have the applications pull, you know, that go along with the technology push.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to be a part of it, as I'm sure Alvin is as well. Let's talk just briefly, because we did ask the community for some input on this unbelievable intersection of people that we convened yesterday at a breakfast. We asked some thought leaders to get together and talk about next generation of XR and how we as an industry escape achieve escape velocity is what I called it. We don't question the validity of cell phones or whether they're going to survive another downturn. When will we as an industry reach that? And that is kind of what we talked about. Alvin, I would love to hear some of your takeaways from it.
Yeah, I know you're going to come out with a big report, so I don't want
We
to
are,
give
we
away
are,
all
we are,
the
yes.
stuff. But I mean, I was actually quite excited to see that there were so many people from different parts of the industry all together, and they all wanted to contribute. They all wanted to be part of making sure that this technology turned out well and did good for society.
Yeah.
So I think that was the unified feedback from the group was the thing that excited me the most. But there's definitely a lot of things in the things that we talked about, from everything from what killer app or what killer apps will be the important ones, and how this going to affect society and economy and job displacement and all these other things. So I think there's just it would take an hour or more to go through it.
Yeah, and we're going to be addressing that. So thank you for everybody who did contribute to What Should We Talk About, and we will be putting out a report. So if you're interested in that, follow us on LinkedIn, the Virtual World Society, or our partner, the VR/AR, and that will be coming out in the next few weeks.
Yeah. And then I think the one thing we can say is that everybody's excited that the coming year to 2 years is going to be really, really important for this industry, especially with the news coming out next week. Everybody felt like that was going to be a positive. There's really no net negative that will come out from having Apple come into this industry, and I think that consensus is also very nice to hear.
And let me add to this too that again, I was actually it exceeded my expectations of what would happen in this meeting. And one of the things, several of the attendees said, Tom, thank you for bringing us together, because we don't get a chance to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, we stand on the stage and we talk about our company or what the work that we're doing, but we don't get a chance to really talk to each other informally and discuss these issues, especially with the group that we had.
Yeah.
And the fact that we used Chatham House rules because
We did. So
there's
no directly attributable
Right.
quotes, so we could speak
they
freely.
felt open, and actually, the coming up, to me, one of the things that came out of it was they want to do it again and again, and that we need to form basically a almost an entity that is this round table that does take a look with heart-to-heart kind of communication about it.
So some of the people we had there, just quickly, we had Neil Trevitt, we had Hugo Swart, we had Janice Seiden, we had Jerry Ellsworth, who I was very pleased to meet. There was amazing people around that table.
Yeah.
Dr. Yu Yuan was there. It was fantastic, and it was an absolute mix of hardware, content people. Niantic was there, and thought leaders. So they were thrilled. It was really an experience that was extraordinary. I'd like to talk a little bit about the actual subject of our talk today, which is the intersection between AI and XR. Let's talk about the convergence between them, because we're in an extraordinarily disruptive time. And I know, Tom, you have a number of thoughts on this, and Alvin, you do as well. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, let me start. I think Alvin is more astute to talk about it. But, it's looking over the history of what's happened and the development of technology and the way we've used technology. And we have to remember that technology is really a tool. It's really to help us accomplish something that we couldn't do without the tool. And humans have been tool builders from the beginning. And especially when we talk about media tools, but when you think about the impact that tools make, for example, fire, with the discovery and development of the use of fire, it's clear that fire can burn us or it can empower us. And so eventually you have to put in the guardrails to say, okay, this is the way you want to use fire. And then of course, when we started splitting the atom, the atom can blow us up or give us unlimited energy, both by breaking the atom apart or fusing it together.
Right.
And that's a paradigm shift. But we had to understand there was a line there where how we wanted to use the technology. And then we get into radio and television and all these. Now we're to the metaverse, and where we're unlocking enormous power in terms of now being able to build this spatial web, where we now are not communicating just in pictures or in words, we're in places. And we remember places. We're awakening spatial memory, which is built inside of us, but we haven't used that in the medium up to this point in time. Then you add AI. And now, AI is disruptive for one particular reason, and that is time constants. When we think about the evolution of all these other technologies, we've had time to think about them and build the guardrails. But now we certainly have gotten to the point where Alvin Toffler talked about future shock, and Ray Kurzweil talked about singularity, and we're there because things are happening so fast, the time constants are so short, we don't have time to put in these guardrails. So in a way, we're in a high C state.
Yeah.
And our navigation tools we used to use, like a sextant, in your high C state, you can't see the horizon, difficult to shoot the stars, so therefore the sextant doesn't work to help us navigate in this space. So what do? Well, we got to come up with other ways to navigate, other navigation tools. And I'll stop there for a minute because I'll tell you what that tool is here in a few minutes, I think, that we go to.
And I was going
Now,
to say,
over to you, Alan.
Can you top that? No.
I think it's pretty tough to top. So as Tom was talking about history, I also would like to go back maybe a little bit even longer. Is what made humans the apex animal on this earth? And it's our intelligence, our brain, and our ability to communicate with each other, and the invention of language. So that we can store knowledge and pass it from one generation to another. It feels like right now we're at another inflection point where it used to be, every new technology just was only a tool for us, only made us more efficient. When steam engines or an axe or a car, it allowed us to do what we were going to do, but better. We're getting to a point now with AI where our biggest advantage, our brain, our intelligence, our ability to process and predict, may actually not be the apex mechanism in the universe anymore, or at least on this earth. So the type of changes that will be created because of this technology trend or wave versus the type that will be created because of prior technology waves are going to be very different, because we may not have another type of new role to take that we didn't used to. So in a way, I agree with a lot of what Tom's saying, but in some ways, I feel like there may be a difference in terms of where the end point is. I also feel like our humanity is where we need to be more focused on, because that's where, at least from the current technology, it's not clear that we can create consciousness and feelings and empathy within machines yet. But from a pure logic perspective, it's clear that these technologies are either caught up or will soon catch up to us on the logic and prediction side. What will happen, though, is that in the near term, in the past, I guess, a lot of people associated with their occupation, with their identity, and with their purpose and goal for life. We probably need to start thinking, is that really the right place to place our aspirations or our personal fulfillment? Whereas, back in the Stone Ages or the primitive, hunter-gathering phases, we may not have had a lot of technology, but we weren't aspiring always to be, buying the next car or the next TV or the next trip somewhere to make us happy. We may need to start thinking about how do we go back to a more basic level of things that would bring us happiness. Right? In fact, there's a lot of studies that show that material goods is a very temporary happiness. Right? And that's what capitalism's been breeding for the last few hundred years, is using material goods and using money and and status as the thing that brings us our temporary happiness. So I think there's going to be a need for us to maybe look at a XR metaverse type of virtual worlds as a way to bring peace to our mental needs that we have, because as social beings we need to connect with other people, and we need to contribute. We need to have a sense of contribution, and if we stop to contribute from a pure occupation labor perspective, we need to find other outlays of that type of an aspiration. So I'll go back to Tom.
Very, very deep here. Yeah, no, spectacular, both of you. I would love you to paint a picture for me of what AI and XR, the intersection, is going to look like in the next maybe a year, and maybe 5 years, and maybe 50 years out there. What is it going to look like? What is our lives as humans going to be different because of it? Easy question.
You didn't tell us you were going to ask that question. Well, I mean, I believe that, again, it's another tool.
Yeah.
It is certainly a tool where we have a short time constant in the way it's going to evolve. But as Ori mentioned in the first day, certainly we need to have these tools to help us to use all the information we have. So in a way, the AI is the interface for XR. I mean, I really believe that. But going back to my super cockpit days back when I worked for the Department of Defense, you know, in the super cockpit, which had, you know, the sensory input, the visual, wide field of view, 3D, things like that, had the haptics. We had haptics in it. We had the eye direction sensing, speech input, binaural sound, all of these kind of things. And we also had R2-D2. It turns out we had a pilot intent inference engine. And the whole idea was that R2-D2 in the back seat was sort of helping us organize all of this information that was available to us, threat information, navigation information, fuel flow, all the things we had to deal with. And it became now a helper. This is back to what we talked about before, a helper for us to basically accomplish the mission we're trying to think. So I believe that we can have AI helpers to navigate as we go into this incredible resource base. We need to have that kind of tool. So in a way, that's our helper. But then there's this other side of AI, which is where it's taking the place of maybe a lot of this content generation. And I had a really interesting encounter the first day with I was sort of approached by this person who said, "I'm actually a performance artist." And I am, you know, I have a reputation now where I go in these classical concerts. I actually create graphics on the fly in real time with the music that goes along with the music, and I'm appreciated for being able to do that, and that's part of the performance. And she says, "Where am I going to be with generative AI?" Because now generative AI can sort of do that kind of thing. And we talked about that a lot, and actually that was a revelation. I didn't even think about what could happen with the displacement of jobs.
Yes.
And we talked about, okay, well, let's think about if generative AI can make art, let's say stills, and you're now looking at that, how is that different than looking at a painting by a master? And we sort of delved in that a little bit and came up with this thing. There's a spirit that's embedded in the master painting, because you can now visualize a human actually creating that. But then you go to the art that's not created by a human. There's not a spirit there. Now, you say, what do you mean by spirit? There's something there that is an entangled piece of a human that is in that manipulation of matter, I believe. And that's not going to be. So the question is, well, normal people really recognize the difference unless you're an artist yourself. Maybe not. But what it can do, what the technology can do, is help those who are displaced to reinvigorate and, I believe, may become better. And the other part that I keep thinking about, and about the use of technology, and I sort of mentioned this before this week, is that I believe that it all comes back to the human. This is what Alvin was saying. It comes back to us and how we become better than we are now, because we're not using but a fraction of our capability. In terms, even with our sensory standpoint, we understand there are 23 senses that we have, and we're not really using them. And in the studies that I've done, funded by the NSF, shows us that we are only partially using our vision. We have this far peripheral retina where we don't even bring into consciousness, but it makes a big difference in our behavior. And so I believe that with the new technology, this new medium that is helping us interface to this vast resource base with our helpers, our R2-D2, can help us develop the capabilities that are embedded or underneath this. And then we become more human.
I'm going to interject just my own 2 cents for a second, because I am actually an artist as well. And I struggle with I love being an artist and I love creating, and all of a sudden there's these tools and people are doing it without all the work that it took to learn the medium. And I think that's what it frees up. It frees up the opportunity for people to not have to spend years learning the technique to actually be that creative person. So I'm excited by the opportunity for everybody to be an artist, as it were, instead of having to spend all the time learning the technical tools. So that's the positive side of that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, although there's going to be some artists that are going to say, hey, now they're taking my job, and these guys who didn't put in the pay are going to get value from it.
And any art that is commercial is going to be affected. But if you're an artist that you're just doing it to be an artist, then it's just...
Well, I think that's a good point.
Barrier to entry is lower.
It doesn't. Why we always think that art has to be appreciated by somebody else, when in fact, why not just the creation itself, the creation process itself, bring joy to us?
Yeah.
Because we know what's coming out of it. We can see the results of that. So we don't have to have someone else to validate us.
Yeah.
Validate what we're able to
Totally
create.
agree. And as you know, my dad's an artist, right? In fact, my mom as well. And for the last half of my dad's life, he stopped selling his paintings. He's saying, I don't want people who are buying my paintings to be the ones that direct what I paint. I want to paint to express myself, and that's what brings me happiness. So I think if we return to kind of the humanist, is what brings us happiness? It has to be something that comes from the inside. If we depend on other people's opinions, if we depend on how much money is in our bank account, or what car is in our garage to be what decides our happiness, we'll never be happy. And I think the other thing is we need to look at our relationship with technology and not be afraid of it. I think there's so many people that are so afraid of it. And so you were asking kind of the 1 and 5 and 100 years. I think from the 1 year perspective, we need to be embracing the technology and using the technology to accelerate this next wave of evolution and the next transition. And the people who embrace it the fastest will be the ones that will actually be able to have more and more control, because they're going to have more influence in society. So the ones who fear the most are actually the ones that are going to be most negatively affected. Right? So if we all embrace it together, it actually brings about a good thing. But I think we definitely need guardrails, as what Tom mentioned, because the technology is moving so quickly that the cycle time of computers is 1,000,000 times faster than that of humans. So if the human brain really has not evolved for 100,000 years. So we're using hardware that is 100,000 years old to compete with data centers that are being upgraded every week. That's kind of a losing battle. And I don't think we want to try to fight that battle, right? And in fact, so in the 5-year horizon or 10-year horizon, we should be looking at it not as a way to now, how can I make more money from it? Maybe in the next couple of years, that's going to, for the people who embrace technology, it will bring them more monetary wealth or status. But in the 5 to 10-year perspective, we should be looking at technology as our patron. right? If you look at all of the major artistic and cultural renaissance or revolutions, they were all during times of peace when there was some patron who helped to support these artists so that they don't have to think about their basic needs, their shelter and food and safety, and they can think about these higher levels. If we get to a point where the productivity of society becomes 10 times, 100 times better than today, and we essentially only have to work when we want to, that changes our relationship with work, and it also frees us up to use our brains to do more creative work. And actually, that's what, from Maslow's hierarchy, you guys all know that. I mean, that's where you bring true happiness and well-being and satisfaction, not the material stuff. Because the material stuff, in a week, you buy a new car or a new computer, a new phone, you're going to go back to that same happiness level. But if you make a piece of art, you can look at that art, or you can enjoy it, you can share it with your friends, or if you take a trip and build memories, those are the kind of things that are long-lasting. Now, if we look at 100 years or 1,000 years from now, I think we then get to another kind of a different generation, a different wave of how we see ourselves with technology, not as from going from a tool to a patron, to maybe looking at them as our children. Because over the last 4 billion years of life on this earth, in our genes, we actually have a little bit of gene from every predecessor, every ancestor that we've had, from the bacteria to the little arthropods to the fish to the birds, whatever. All of those have a little bit in us in terms of our genetics. And what AI is doing today essentially is taking the learnings and the history that humans has made over the last few thousand years and ingested it into its brain. So rather than looking at it as a threat or looking at it as a tool, we should be looking at it as the next incarnation of what we represent. And being a carbon-based life form, we can't do a lot of things, let's say going to another star, because we just can't go at that speed or at that time frame. Whereas if we take what we are and create another new generation of animals or beings, that actually may be something that can pass on our genes, our intellect, our the unique intelligence that we've created, at least in the known universe, into other places and spread that goodness and something that I think is actually quite rare. So I think in each of these phases, we should start to think about a different relationship, but not fear it, because I think too many people are afraid that it's going to take over and we're going to all die. I actually don't think that's going to be the case. So.
Oh, wow. Something you just said triggered. We have to remember also the DNA is changing because of a piece of it,
Yes.
the epigenetics that we program.
Yes.
And so as we reach, and this is what the epitome I think we're at, where this inflection point is going from, we're all at the top of the triangle, of Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? I mean, every one of us here in the room
Absolutely.
pretty much are self-actualized. We're at the top of our game, or we're developing to get to the top of that game. We've solved all these earlier problems, at least for the time being. And so what do we do now? How much is enough?
Yeah.
And so here we are, all these triangles in this room, and at least what this gathering has done is start to align these triangles where the apexes come together. Think about what happens when, let's say that you're good at playing the bassoon and you're good at playing the violin. I'm the timpani. We're the best in our instrument. Yeah, we can play our instrument by ourselves, but when our apex comes together, fire. We have created fire again, and it becomes a symphony where we are now playing at a level of music that by ourselves we couldn't create. But as we do it together, It's something that lifts us. And that's what transcendence is about. I think we're at the point in our civilization of transcendence where we get outside of ourselves and now realize there are lots of other triangles down there
Well,
that don't
that's
have
what I'm
that.
thinking as you're talking.
And so you
A lot
want to
of the
lift
world
them.
is-
And we want
yeah.
more people in our symphony.
Yeah.
We want everyone in the symphony.
Yeah.
And so our job now is to get outside of it. You only get to keep what you give away. And so the idea is to bring them up to that point where we're together, we're one, and then there, when we have that programming in our DNA, we are able
Yep.
to take it from there.
And I think some of you might have been at the earlier panel a couple days ago, and I think I said something. Oops, sorry. Sorry, I lost my thought. Shoot.
You said something at your previous.
We were at a previous
Yeah.
panel, we're talking about
Yeah.
those.
Come back to me.
So we all have those moments, and it is the end of a very long 3 days, right? I love everything you're saying. It's very inspirational. I think everybody could agree on that. I'm curious about how these technologies are going to help I don't know what percentage it is of the planet that is still behind us. We are very lucky, to your point. We have a lot of people who aren't quite so lucky. So how are these technologies going to superpower bringing everybody along?
Well, I think the key is access. I mean, the real problem now, I've never seen a dumb kid anywhere in the world. And if you look at, for example, one of our colleagues, Marcus Shingles, in Exponential Destiny, he's taken kids that were pretty much on the street
Yeah.
in Los Angeles. And now they are going around the world talking to heads of state. They are creating opportunities for students in various places around the U.S., in school districts. And they did it because they got access and they were taught how to use some of this technology and then get out of the way.
Right.
And they became all that they are still becoming.
Right.
You visit them at I guess time's running out, but
Well.
the Exponential Destiny booth. And so that's what I've seen happen over and over again, is just give them a chance. As school kids, young kids, and that's what the Virtual World Society is trying to do with our HomeSpark
That was what I was going
project.
to bring back to the virtual.
Yeah, the
exactly.
HomeSpark project that we're doing is to build centers of learning in homes. Not only affluent homes, but homes that people have economic challenges, and or other kind of challenges, accessibility challenges. And so what we want to do is actually work on the human superpowers of imagination, curiosity, creativity, empathy, love, because those things happen in homes. That's really the unit that
Right.
makes this all work. Our institutions, especially educational institutions, are a shambles. They're a mess. And if anything, they are making us go in the opposite direction, especially the kids. They losing their passion. They're confused. They're depressed, and the teachers are too. The teachers are it's not the teachers, it's just the idea of the way education is done in institutions, and they are constrained in what they can do. So the Virtual World Society is trying to focus on upskilling and HomeSpark activities around the world, globally. I mean, the HomeSpark project is, to start off, is building clusters of families around the world, providing technology, and basically earn to learn, that you're actually getting resources
Yeah.
by learning, in the process of learning. And then, now that you've learned, you can earn even more.
Yeah.
And so that's one of our big projects we're trying to do. And
It's
and trying to
very,
get some-
now you can see why I decided I really wanted to be a board member at this organization. Very inspirational, and I think Angelina is here to talk about some winners. I want to thank everybody, though. We want to thank all our breakfast attendees who made an amazing experience. I want to thank everybody who got involved by talking about what they'd wanted us to say there. We love involving the community. And if anybody is here is interested in being more involved, please visit the Virtual World Society either on LinkedIn or on any of our other social media, or at virtualworldsociety.org. And we'd love to have you join and be part of it.
You can be part of the cool kids club with us up here.
I don't know about that.
We have a couple people that signed up. If you can wave your hands, Dan. Dan has presents for you guys. Jonathan Josephson, Gigi Johnson, Martin Murphy, Jim Chaffee, and Justin Craddock. If you are still here, Dan, if you stand up, go get your prizes. You get a cool T-shirt so you can wear the jacket with us, and we will know that you are using technology for good in the world. And so we thank you all for joining us. Go to virtualworldsociety.org. Watch more of these amazing conversations.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.